Hey guys, how you doing? I hope you had a fantastic week. Today I'd like to share with you my Black Hat 2019 keynote picks. These are the keynotes that I found that were quite interesting in terms of my profession, in terms of the things that I like. So if you don't want to go through all the keynote events, stick and I'm gonna share with you my best 10 picks. The first keynote that I liked was Stealing Bitcoins with EMFI. EMFI is also known as electromagnetic fault injection. What it does is that it tricks a device's digital circuitry into operating in a particular manner that you'd like to exploit. And what the researchers did here is that they focused on the Trezor wallet. For those who don't know what a Trezor wallet is a Bitcoin wallet. It's a hardware wallet where you store your Bitcoins offline, Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies. So what they did is that they used the EMFI to trick the Trezor wallet digital circuitry, and they used the tool to copy the memory stack. Essentially, they cloned the device so that they could then steal the Bitcoins later. How they stole the Bitcoins is that they managed to get the seed address for the particular wallet. Now, for those who don't know what a seed address is essentially like a sister to a private key. How Bitcoin works is that you've got the public key that you share, then you've got the private key that you use to sign transactions with. Now, how you generate the private key? You can use a seed. A seed is essentially a collection of words that are used to generate a private key. That's the basic definition I can give you. I don't want to dive into Bitcoin a lot. So this is a really interesting keynote. Watch it. I hope you're going to like it. The second keynote that I found interesting was attacking and defending the Microsoft Cloud, Office 365 and Azure AD. For those who don't know what Office 365 is, Office 365 is a Microsoft productivity solution where they bundle email and the common Office apps that you know. Azure AD is basically Azure Active Directory. If you've dealt with Windows machines in an enterprise, in a workplace, you've definitely come across Active Directory. Azure AD is essentially the software as a service for Active Directory. The researchers tried to see what are the various attack vectors that hackers might choose if your organization is running on O365 and Azure AD. They also tried to show how and what techniques the attackers might choose, techniques like token theft, since primarily majority of the account authentication happens on the website. They also showed methods in which you can use to detect if an attack is happening. They also demoed and showed ways in which you can try to protect your O365 and Azure AD using cloud firewalls and other security technologies out there. This is a really interesting keynote. Watch it. Tell me what you think. The third keynote that I found interesting was infiltrating corporate intranet like NSA using pre-auth RCE on leading SSL VPNs. What the researchers did here is demo how easily well-known VPN brands are easily exploitable using techniques such as backdoor. What they did is that they took leading SSL VPNs and they created a magic backdoor shell, a magic root shell whereby they could backdoor in and essentially change the VPN password. And if they can change the VPN password, they can change the SSL certificate. And the SSL certificate is used to encrypt the data traveling in the VPN. And if they control that, they can encrypt and decrypt all the data traveling in the VPN. This is interesting, especially if you're really concerned about privacy. And if you're working in an organization that deals with VPNs, or if your organization uses VPNs to protect information. The fourth keynote that I found interesting was backdooring hardware devices by injecting malicious payloads on microcontrollers. If you've heard of IoT, which I'm sure you have if you're watching this channel, IoT is an acronym for Internet of Things. Now, IoT has a lot of devices in it, but microcontrollers form the bulk of these devices. Microcontrollers are small devices running small amounts of memory, small amounts of CPU that are used to run particular software. They essentially run particular tasks on loop. So what the researchers demoed here is how easily microcontroller devices can be compromised. Leading microcontroller devices from firms such as ARM, Intel and AMD. This is really interesting because as IoT gains mainstream, we really need to look at IoT security, and I think this is a really interesting keynote. And if you're into IoT, if you're building IoT devices, watch this keynote. The fifth keynote that I liked was fantastic red team attacks and how to find them. If you're a cybersecurity professional, you know what red teams are. A red team is essentially a team that's the bad guy in any cyber attack scenario. And they essentially pitted against a blue team being the good guy, who is essentially supposed to mirror the organization that's being defended. Organizations usually use red teams and blue teams to attack and test the programs that you're using, especially really big firms. Big firms such as Microsoft, they use red team and blue teams to find vulnerabilities and to try and attack and optimize their systems and their solutions. So what the researchers demoed here is how attackers can leverage red team scenarios, how they can use red team techniques to compromise a particular organization. They looked at particular attack vectors such as trusted developer utilities. These are utilities that are running on the organization. They also looked at .NET default binaries. These are essentially binaries that run on any Windows desktop that's being used by the organization. So these are really interesting attack vectors that a red team can use. And if you're practicing or experimenting with red team and blue team scenarios, please check out these keynotes. The sixth keynote that I liked was Securing the System, a deep dive into reversing Android pre-installed apps. What the researchers demoed here is how security misconfigurations, malwares, and remote code executions can be used to compromise Android devices via pre-installed apps. So this is a keynote that's geared towards OEMs and helps them ensure that pre-installed apps are secure and there are no loopholes that can be used to compromise Android devices. Remember that Android is a really big ecosystem with a lot of OEMs, and so depending on which firmware image a particular OEM picks, they might end up propagating existing vulnerabilities. So if you are an Android developer, or if you're an OEM, or if you work for an OEM, definitely check out this keynote. You're going to like it. The seventh keynote that I liked was how to detect that your domains are being used for phishing by using DNS. Phishing is a really big problem in cybersecurity. And a basic definition of phishing is someone trying to fool you into thinking that you're dealing with another person. An example would be a criminal trying to fool you into thinking that you're dealing with a bank official, while in essence you're dealing with that criminal. So how criminals use phishing is that they set up domains that are supposed to mimic the legitimate domain that you're supposed to be dealing with. An example would be if you're banking with abcbank.com, a criminal might set up a phishing domain that goes by abcbanks.com, essentially add S at the end of K. And since that's a really small modification, you're not going to see any big change to that domain, so you're not going to detect it easily. And that's how criminals get away with phishing. So in this demo, what the researchers did is that they tried to see how they can detect phishing via emails. Now, once these criminals set up phishing domains, they then proceed to create phishing emails. Phishing emails are supposed to trick you into thinking that you're dealing with a legitimate email and you're not. An example would be if you are banking with abcbank.com, then the phishing email is going to be from abcsbank.com, but it's going to kind of trick you into thinking that you're dealing with abcbank.com, and that's how they kind of compromise you. So the phishing email is going to contain vulnerabilities, it's going to contain particular exploits that they're going to use into gaining access to your device, into gaining access into your passwords, and that's how phishing essentially results into compromised accounts. Now, what the researchers did here is that they showed various techniques in which an organization can detect phishing emails. Now, this is a really interesting keynote if especially you're into email security, if you're a pen tester, if you're dealing with email services, definitely watch this keynote. The eighth keynote that I found interesting was Shifting Knowledge Left, keeping up with modern application security. The cybersecurity and application security field is really large, filled with a lot of frameworks, filled with a lot of languages, filled with a lot of tools, and a lot of sources of information. And what this keynote does is that it tries to propose ways in which firms and individuals can keep up and can also train their institutions, and also how they can communicate any AppSec findings that they have. So this is a really good keynote if you want to find ways in which you can keep yourself and your firm and your teammates constantly updated. Definitely watch this keynote. The ninth keynote that I liked was Detecting Deepfakes with Mice. What are deepfakes? Deepfake is essentially when we use neural networks to imitate human-like speech and realistic human-like interactions. So how do we detect deepfakes? Well, the researchers are proposing using AI to detect deepfakes. So this is using AI to detect AI. It's very cheesy, but it's really interesting. Deepfakes really pose a huge social engineering threat, whereby we see bad actors, e.g. coming up with your voice based from small voices. So if you're using your voice as a password, or using videos as a password. Okay, I don't think that happens, but I think you understand what I'm saying. So this imitation of real life interactions is going to be a new attack vector that bad actors are going to explore. So Mice is essentially an AI that detects deepfakes. If you're into deep learning, if you're into machine learning, definitely check out this keynote. You're going to like it. The 10th and the last keynote that I liked was Cyber Insurance 101 for CISOs. CISOs is an acronym for Cyber Information Security Officers, and these are individuals in an organization whose task is to ensure that the cyber policy and the cyber security functions are being adhered to in a particular organization. So in this demo, researchers tried to show how cyber insurance can come into play into your organization, and if you're a CISO officer, what you should be looking for. They definitely cover things like market dynamics, coverage terms and conditions, services that should be included in our cyber insurance product. So if you're a cybersecurity professional, if you're a CISO officer, if you're an IT officer, if you're interested in getting a cyber insurance for your company, definitely watch this keynote. It's going to come in handy. So that's it. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon to get notified when I upload new videos. Till next time,